Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashley Haden's Political Breakdown, the show where we go through with guests about the week's news and how hellish every fucking day is. This week, my guest is the wonderful, the lovely Andy Onions. Hello, Andy. How the devil are you?
I'm doing really well, mate. You're looking pretty sharp there. I've not quite gone for the same grooming routine. You're looking good.
Oh, we pull off our own looks. We both pull them off very well. I think we're both doing well during this. How have you found the lockdown over the past few months?
Well, there's a lot to say, but I'm glad it's over now. I've got a gig tonight. I'm really looking forward to indoors first one, so that's going to be really sweet. Yeah, it's going to be really good.
Is that going to be still going ahead because they've pushed back the lockdown rules by 2 weeks? So it's all of the stuff isn't actually happening.
I thought it was all over now.
No,
what? I thought it was finished.
No, it's not, unfortunately.
I saw that diagram where it was like one person, right? And then they give it to more people. So basically, it was one, and then like 400 people.
The R number, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like basically only 1 in 400 people have got it, so it's fine. So it's okay, right? Aren't we all back to normal?
Unfortunately not.
Oh no. Oh.
I know. It's ridiculous.
No, I've obviously not got anything booked in. I haven't touched a person since March 6th, the pretend lockdown. I'm lucky enough I can get food delivery, so I don't go out, mate. I don't go out because I don't want to spread a virus that could kill people. That's it. I'm lucky enough.
It sounds like a good reason. Yeah, well, that's good. Let's start because we're going to cover bits on the coronavirus, but I want to start with an opportunity for the nation, because as we know, there's a lot of unemployment at the moment, and so people are going to be looking for a job. And there's a new job that's just come out from the government, of all places, and they are searching for a new £100,000 plus a year spokesman to become the face of the government in televised press conferences during the autumn. So the job ad asks for someone to communicate with the nation on behalf of the Prime Minister. Now,
isn't that part of his job?
That's my thinking. Isn't that what he's meant to do?
If anything, isn't he a figurehead and everyone else does the work?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, speaking on behalf of the government is kind of what the Prime Minister's there for.
Wow.
The audacity of going, you know what? I don't like all of these questions. I'm going to pay someone. Don't forget, we're heading towards fucking recession and economic fucking breakdown. 100 grand plus a year to do his job for him.
Is the broadcast live?
Well, I assume the press conferences will be live.
I'll do it. I will get that job. I'm great at presenting the slides, and then just before I will switch the file I'm going to do, and I'll only get to do it for 1 day, but I'll get to do it for a few seconds at least.
Well, this is it. Should we allow everyone to have a chance at doing it?
Why not? I mean, I actually wasn't even going to do this podcast here. I was going to pay someone else to come and do my actual job for me.
Well, he's paid like 150k himself to be the Prime Minister.
Does it come out of his money? If it comes out of his money, that's fine.
If that's a brilliant thing. If he's if he's actually subsidising it, and that's so we're based. But wouldn't that be another example of privatisation?
He's privatised himself.
He's such a Tory that he's actually privatising his own fucking job. It's amazing. The fucking sheer balls it takes to just go, I mean, how far is this going to go? Is he going to get someone to do Prime Minister's questions for him? Is he going to get someone to
the previous incumbent didn't she?
Oh, she fucking tried sometimes, yes.
So maybe. I mean, it's a great idea. I read about this thing where this software developer guy working online, this was a few years ago, outsourced various tasks, subtasks of what we needed to do to various different things. And that was his job. So he'd effectively get given a task to do and get paid like American wages, send it out to like Belarusia and stuff too. They actually do the work, and then he just put it in together and get paid. And that was his job. And that was just like brilliant. What an excellent way of capitalizing on people.
I remember that fucking story. That was a cracking story, because he ended up being sacked for that, didn't he?
He should have been promoted.
He should have been, yeah. I mean, he's saving everyone money. The job's doing well because the people in fucking Belarus, Estonia, Bangladesh, they know what they're fucking doing, unlike this cheeky knobhead. It's fantastic. Let's continue with how awful Boris Johnson is, and we will cover a lot of it on there. And people may think that because I go so long about how bad the government is that I'm a big Labour supporter. I'm not. They're cunts as well, but they're not in power. And it's a pointless exercise, I think, for a lot of times to go on about what's happening with the Lib Dems or Labour or things like this when their effect is negligible. So we do a lot on the government because they're the ones screwing us. Now let's go on to the peerages. Have you seen this? The people who are getting peerages.
I haven't heard about the peerages, but I have seen who's put in the House of Lords. So yeah.
Yes. So just a couple of names. We've got Boris Johnson's brother,
Joe Johnson. Yeah.
Yes. So let's start with that. Should a prime minister give a peerage to his own brother?
Well, why would he not? The Tories committed to making the House of Lords bigger to make the process harder to do. And his brother and him had a disagreement. He said, I tell you what, you step down, I'll make you a Lord. Why wouldn't he do that? It's in his interest to do that. We've made it in the Prime Minister's interest to put his cronies in the House of Lords. So why wouldn't he do it?
What's actually interesting about that is that Theresa May, when she was PM, became the first PM to actually pledge to reduce the number in the House of Lords.
Did she?
Yes, because I mean, she of course she didn't get round to doing it. She didn't get round to doing a lot of the stuff that she wanted: kill all of the poor people, destroy anyone that has a tan, all of her wonderful plans. But I mean, with some of them, killing the poor and destroying anyone with a tan, Boris Johnson's still going forward with that.
I'm half Iranian, so yesterday I was out in the sun and I'm a bit worried now.
Wait, the fact you're half Iranian, you should be a bit worried now. I mean, the UKIP will be marching around you any day. But what's weird, the result of all of these peerages, because it's 36, means that we're going to get nearly 830 people in the House of Lords.
More unelected people than elected people representing us. That's how it should work in whatever he's doing.
Isn't that the weirdest thing? And the type of people, the type of fucking people that they've got. The owner of the Independent, or the ex-owner of the Independent.
News mogul, money.
Well, he's the son of an ex-KGB agent.
What's his name?
It's fucking...
Lord Jakub Smirnov or something. What is it?
Lebedev.
I'm sorry if that's racist, but I'm white, so it's okay. It's a funny name for a lord.
It's Lebedev.
What's his name?
Lebedev.
Lord Lebedev. Lord Lebedev.
I probably butchered that. Fucking butchered
that. The people he's butchered in his homeland, probably. I've done no research.
Well, this is the thing. This is one of Boris Johnson's friends. He's when he was both Foreign Secretary and Mayor of London, he spent a lot of time at his abode. It's a pure cronyism, all of it. But you've also got go on.
If Boris Johnson believes him being Prime Minister is good for the country, which he does, then he believes the person who helped him doing it did a really good thing for the country. So that's why he's put all of his friends and his brother in. So if you think about it from his point of view, of course he's doing what the society's allowing him to do. We need to make sure
that's an interesting point. Do you actually believe that Boris Johnson thinks he is doing good for the country?
I think that Boris Johnson wants to be in charge and thinks it's best that he's in charge.
Yes, but for the good of the country or for the good of him.
Every comedian thinks they're better than they are. So why wouldn't he think he's the best? He's been such an ego trip. He's been told he's the best all the way. Why wouldn't he think that him being in charge is the best thing for the country, despite the scientific fact that it's not?
Yes, it's interesting to see the workings in someone's mind, and you're just there going, are you that much of an egotist, or are you delusional? One of the things Boris Johnson said about this was just yesterday or something, because we'll get on to the lockdown in Manchester and all of this in a moment. One of the things he said was he didn't want this country to become delusional about the lockdown being over. And my thing is, you can't want a country to not be delusional and to vote for you. It doesn't work. You can't have both for him. You want one or the other, because if this country isn't delusional, they're not fucking voting for this lying human waste.
I think I've got to a point of Zen Buddhism where I've been just at home for 18 weeks. I've gone a bit mad. I mean, just before I tried to put a bit of talcum powder on my beard to look more grey and distinguished. It just went everywhere. It didn't really work. So this is not necessarily the best advice, but I think that if you put a chimp in a car and it starts driving and kills someone, it's because it's your fault for putting a chimp in the car. We should not be putting chimps in cars. If you go, well, of course he's going to do that. That's what he does. When people say, oh, look what Trump's done. Yeah, of course he's going to do that. That's what he does. We need to make sure that these people cannot do that and change things. You know, it's very hard to do so. But I just got bored of him saying stuff as well. When I thought it was him, oh, he's so horrible. He's lying about a bus. What a horrible man he is. And like now it's just like, he's just killing people with decisions and stuff.
But this is the problem. We cannot allow ourselves to become complacent with atrocity.
Exactly. So we should change the system. We should not have this at all. I'm agreeing with you. We should get him out, but we shouldn't be surprised when he acts like a complete wanker.
Yes, but there's one thing of not being surprised, and then there's the other side of not allowing yourself to be numb to it.
That's very true.
We'll continue with the peerages, because it's amazing the hypocrisy that we see daily, that once again we can't be surprised about, but it fucking breaks into me soul. You've got Kate Hoey, Claire Fox, someone Stewart. These three, Claire Fox was an ex-MEP, Brexit Party MEP. Ian Austin is also going to be getting a peerage. Hoey and Austin were both anti-Brexit or for Brexit, anti-EU, hated the idea of these unelected bureaucrats. And you're accepting a peerage into the House of Lords. How can these people look at themselves in the mirror with what they're saying? They have to know that they're being hypocritical. They have to know that they've spent all these years lying, and all they're looking to do is to corrupt society. They have to be aware of this. Surely, I can't be wrong there. Am I mad? Am I fucking losing it?
I think you have a sense of integrity that is part of your soul, that you are not a hypocrite in what you do. And so when people are, it amazes you. But these people are not necessarily people who believe in the good. Some of them believe that they just should be in power for their own sake. It's part of what makes them tick. So people do whatever they can to stay in power, switch sides, jump around as well. Hypocrisy is nothing to them. Yeah, they are hypocritical. We should get people who don't want to be in power to run things. That's what I think.
Absolutely, 100%. If you want to be a politician, you should not be allowed to be a fucking politician.
Be a comedian.
Certainly. Absolutely. Yeah, well, fucking, I've tried. Claire Fox is one of the ones that I think shows that any form of integrity or anything goes. Because Claire Fox, not only was she a Brexit Party MEP, but she has said that she insisted child abuse images should not be removed from the internet, and said that most child.
What's the context of that?
She was defending what's his face, one of the pedos with shit music.
Ian
Glitter.
Oh.
Glitter. Gary Glitter. She was defending Gary Glitter. And she said, and this is the quote, most child porn is not child porn because it's simulated.
But like unless it's with Lego. Wow. Okay, fair enough. Because sometimes things are taken out of context. You got the backup for it. What a. And she's a lot. She's a. What's the opposite? What's a lady lord called? He said being sexist. I don't know. Dame?
Fuck knows. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Some shithead. She's also a Holocaust denier, but not the most well-known Holocaust, Kosovo Bosnia Holocaust. She denied.
Oh, she's like the remake.
She's a hipster Holocaust denier.
Hipster Holocaust denier.
Yeah. Oh no, that would happen. Yeah. I personally, not my favorite Holocaust. I actually like other Holocausts that you probably haven't even heard of. That actually happened. She refused to condemn the Warrington IRA bombings.
Why?
I don't know. She was part of the revolutionary socialists back in the 80s.
They were great band.
Yeah. Wonderful music. We all know them. Only One Holocaust Exists. I believe that was their big album. Well, it's just we're going through and we're seeing all of these people that they're selecting. You're only being selected because you supported Brexit. That's it. He hasn't given one to Mark Carney, which goes against what normally occurs.
Yeah, same with the speaker as well. Where's his little
anyone who was against him, who stood up for a bit more truth. And listen, Berko, I think Berko's a cunt. Everyone goes on about Berko, about how nice he is. No, he was a bully. He was done as a bully. He's a piece of shit. I was like, oh, he's got a lovely voice, though, hasn't he? And he says order very well. No, he's a bullying little cunt, mate. That's who he is. He shouldn't become a fucking celebrity now. He's a bullying little cunt. But there is it happens. You become a fucking speaker. You get given a peerage. That's what happens. And the only reason he's not is not because he's a fucking bully. Which if that was the reason, I'd be fine with it. But it's not. The reason that it's not is because he didn't allow the government to break the law.
Yes, that's it. He basically went into these books late at night going, well, how can I work this out? Like those kind of montages in films. Ha, here we go. This is what we can do. And go, that was illegal.
Yeah. Right. Let's go to the US. We'll do a couple of stories on the US while we're here. The first one is a new investigation has suggested that big corporations accused of driving environmental and health inequalities in Black and brown communities through toxic and climate-changing pollution are also funding police groups in the US. So this is some of the largest oil and gas, private utility and financial institutions that bankroll fossil fuels and make policies that are detrimental to Black and brown communities in the US, are also backing police foundations, which are opaque private entities that raise money to pay for training, weapons, equipment, and surveillance tech across the US. Cities like Seattle, Chicago, Washington, New Orleans, Salt Lake City are all partially funded by companies like Chevron, Shell, and Wells Fargo. Is the US beyond saving?
That's quite a big question. I think looking at the US as one entity is there's a lot of different parts of it. My housemate lives in San Francisco. I know that sounds weird. My house isn't massive. And California.
It's just interdimensional, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is.
You're like the Doctor Who of fucking comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in California, you have to kind of wear a face mask when you're outside, even if you're not near anyone. People kind of frown upon you. Like in San Francisco, that's kind of one extreme.
Yes.
And even if you're not near anyone, you need to wear a face mask, which is not really the regulations. It's just kind of what people's attitude is. It's so repressed, this use intelligence. They're very, very much not Trump. Whereas I've got another friend who lives in Chicago, and he says that it's okay, but like it's very, very different. And from what we can hear of reports in other parts of the country as well, which don't know anyone who's been there, but from what I've seen, it looks like it's almost the other way around. Like wearing a mask is stopping you breathing. If you're wearing a mask that's stopping you breathing, then it's not the right mask. You're wearing like, I don't know, like a plunger on your face. Put a mask on.
Oh yeah, I mean you're wearing a fucking gag.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem they did, genuinely, the serious point, I think that they should have told people that wearing masks protects you. I think they should have done that.
Yeah, make it a selfish thing. We are a selfish society. If you say wearing a mask will protect you, that's the way to go about it.
And it kind of does a little bit. So just say these protect you, wear them. Don't talk, and then people will wear them more. That's it.
Well, yes, it does protect you because if everyone wears it, then you are protected.
Yeah. And I get some people's jobs and lives, they have to go and do things, and they have to go and do these things. I'm not saying people shouldn't go and do life, but if you are going to do life, try and make sure that these simple precautions stop people from dying, even if it's not necessarily you directly, because you can transmit it. There was this really weird case. Do you know World of Warcraft? It's like an online game. I know, like, I look like I should have actually played this a lot, but I haven't. A few years ago, there was if you indulge me for a minute, there was this event where if you went to this big boss, it would attack you with a damage and then recurring damage, and it would hurt you quite a lot and kill most people. But there was a bug in the game where if you got it and your pet got it, you could pause your pet and transport it away or something, get away from the boss and get your pet back. And this disease was infectious and it spread like a pandemic. And there were a few people trying to spread it, a few people who were just having fun. There were also, crucially, there were people who were asymptomatic carriers. They were basically computer-generated people who get it and spread it but never die. So people quarantined themselves without even being told to do so. It's a bug. It's this really interesting thing. It's been used to show how terrorism can be used to take advantage of a pandemic, and also how people in pandemics react. And in World of Warcraft, people quarantined, held out. The strong went out to say, no, don't come in. And everyone looked out for each other. And it kind of worked out. And in the real world...
Yeah, it's a concern. With regards to this particular story, should corporations anywhere have this amount of sway? Because these police foundations in the cities, these companies sit on police foundations, on the committees. So they say where the money's going. Here's the money. We want our say. Should police be separate from corporations?
I don't think that anyone believes that a corporation is going to act in the best interests of the public rather than themselves. A corporation is meant to make money. That's its role.
Yes.
That's why we have things like public services, where the money is divided according to where it can do the best good rather than how it can please the funder. Unfortunately, when you have politics that's involved where people give deals to cronies like media magnates, or you have in America where even people we see as good politicians still have to campaign to people who are and pander to them. I think they're called lobbyists, and they have to kind of make sure they do whatever they do after they're in power, because that's how they got into power. And how everyone does that, you always want to please people like that. So it becomes a really, really, really hard issue to kind of fully dissect. But yeah, people are always going to do what what their nature is, and a company is never going to help the public. They're going to help the company. And if a company is incentivized against helping the public and they pay money to the police and saying it, that's criminal. That's a militia.
Yeah, well, we see at the moment, especially over in America, with Black Lives Matter and the fascism that we're seeing over in America with the police, who are fucking masked, who have taken off their badges, putting people not even arresting, kidnapping people putting them into unmarked cars, and all of this. Fascism is happening over, and it is to stop equality. That's the reason. And I do have concern that we look over in America and we think, well, we're not that bad. So we ignore the issues that are faced in this country with our own bigoted institutional racism and things like this. So the next two stories coincide with exactly that. You've got the Colour of Power survey came out this week. And it said that the proportion of Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in the 1,100 most powerful jobs in the UK has barely moved in the last 3 years. So you've got 51 out of the 1,097 most powerful roles are filled by non-whites, which is an increase of 1.2% or 15 people since 2017. 4.7% of the total number, compared with 13% of the population of this country. So you've got no BAME chief constables in the UK, which I think is massively important. You see the racism that we have in the country with our police force as well, which goes on to another story which is
it a happy story?
No, this is the Met Police.
Okay.
The Met Police have increased its use of the controversial Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act that allows officers to... What?
Sorry, go on. Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Well, it's the act that allows officers to stop and search people with no grounds for suspicion. Normally, this would be used if there is a fear of violence, because it has to be agreed. The Section 60 is basically like turning on a light switch and saying, now you can go and just stop and search anyone you fucking want, and then turn it off. It's not powers that police have all of the time, but it coincides with the Coronavirus Act that came in March, without any scrutiny, that gave the police more powers to basically just fucking stop and search and arrest anyone that they had suspicion of potentially infected people, which of course can be used terribly. Now, in May, the Met stopped and searched 1,418 people under Section 60, which was more than double that was stopped in May 19 during a lockdown. They stopped to search more people during a lockdown than normal. Now, the figures, because there is some fucking madness here. So the Met Commissioner, Cressida Dick, told the Home Office Committee that officers had stopped and searched more than 20,000 young Black men in London during the lockdown, which is equivalent to more than a quarter of all Black 15 to 24-year-olds in the capital. Now, with this Section 60, we continue to see that the inequality in the most important jobs is hardly fucking moving, and you've got ministers being accused of dragging their feet on tackling the rising racial inequality in the UK, which is according to the leaving equities head of the equities watchdog, David Isaac. So, with all of this information, and I know that it's a lot of information very quickly, I get that. We are seeing that nothing is being done. If anything, it is getting worse. How can we actually get to a point when we're moving towards not solving inequality? On this fucking podcast, we are not going to solve inequality. How are we going to actually make steps to improve it, though? Is it? Yeah, come on.
Is that? I was going to say, are you actually asking me that question of all of those?
Yep, steps? Actually asking you the question.
Right. So for those of you who don't know me, I normally do kind of kid-friendly PowerPoint-based comedy, but also I'm a person in my own right. There's a lot of information. They're absolutely right, and I wouldn't begin to say that we could even. I even have a solution to this, but if we make people incentivized to treat people better, then people will do that, and that will become human behavior. We're all just chimpanzees. So currently, the incentive is not to be.
I disagree with that.
You disagree?
I'll tell you straight away. I disagree with that. I think that is a humanitarian cop-out. Okay. It is an argument that is made by a lot of people to say, "Oh, we're just animals. We are just animals." No, we're not. Although we are animals in terms of on the fucking animal spectrum, as we're mammals, we are not just animals. If we were just animals, we would not be having this fucking conversation. We would be chucking shit at each other and checking out for predators. That's what we'd be doing. Yeah, we are not just animals. It is an excuse that people make for people being awful.
All right, I'll rephrase this. We have the capacity to think as both animals and as people, and that's what separates us from civilization's what separates us from animals. We are people. We've evolved to cooperate as well.
Yes.
But sometimes people act with their own selfish animalistic interests. I want to protect me. I'm scared of this. I'm fearful of this terrorism thing that actually isn't going to kill me because it's unlikely, but I'm scared of it. So I'll stay more at home, be more aggressive to other people. And that hits our primal behavior. If we remove all the negativity in the world and get rid of social media where people are trying to better each other as well, and better reach out for mental health. For example, good shout out today, FA Cup final today is the Heads Up FA Cup final, supporting mental health. That's what it is this year. It's not supported by any football like beer or gambling. It's Heads Up FA Cup final to support mental health. We do that as a society, but also there's so many different parts of the world. Like you couldn't just say one thing that works in like a high level society, say in Norway, will not necessarily work in somewhere that's more developing as well. But in general, we have to work to help each other out and cooperate. And if we're competing, suddenly people using advertising budgets against each other to fight, why don't we, instead of doing that, we build resources? So the real only way I think we could do it to have equality is cooperate. But I'll be very, very careful because I don't know enough about philosophy to know what way that goes as well. But if people fight, if you steal something from someone, it costs $10 from them. It actually costs like $100 in the damage or something, and the psychological damage and the policing work and the fixing the window. So if we all cooperate, we can use resources to work better so we won't go short. But that's also a very big hippie dream.
Oh, no, but it makes a lot of sense working together. As long as we're not going in the idea of, like, say, a communist thing, which doesn't work. It simply will never work. Communism is bullshit done by fucking knobheads. And Marxism can blow itself out of its hole as well while we're there. It's one of the issues I've had for years, and I've yet to really write enough on it in stand up. I covered it a bit a couple of shows ago. With what we've got, democracy, capitalism, socialism, all of these ideas, they're so old, these ideas, and they've proven time and time and again to not work. None of these ideas work. If they did, the world would be better. You could argue that it's because the people are not the idea, but if the people can't make the idea work, then the idea doesn't work. So we need to look past our ideological, at this point, fucking fundamentalist views that these are the only things. It can only be capitalism. It can only be socialism. It can only be fucking communism. These are the only ideas that work. Whereas society and history tells us that they don't. So if we are going to improve, we need ideas that aren't these.
All right. So one way that if you could do it that would work is make access to relevant information free and available to all, and then teach the right information. So instead of going, right, here you go, this is my opinion, instead of teaching people about fairy stories in the past, we should go, here's science. This is why this plant will grow. If you do this, you can grow crops. You can learn these things too. Educate people, because people with education and resources can do a lot more than people with handouts. So we've got all the resources. I don't think there's anything you can't learn online for free if you just good enough Googling and talk to people who are doing the same sort of thing for free. And I don't mean like necessarily the most complicated things, but how to build an irrigation system, how to learn stuff, how to educate yourself in terms of mathematics. So there's never a case in America next to a court where they're trying to change pi to 3 because it's better. And someone went, if you change pi to 3, all your buildings will fall down. So we need to have that. Education will help everyone, but it's scary because education brings power and makes people less powerful. So someone who's high up is no longer powerful. And if they can, like example, North Korea, he tells everyone what they want to think, so he's in power. If he educated everyone, he wouldn't be in power. That's the simple thing.
Well, yeah, ignorance is bliss. We've seen it in this country for years. Of the constant lies that we've been told for 30, 40 years with regards to foreigners in the EU. It's been given fucking cocaine and steroids over the past 5 years for the level of lies that have been going on, and we're willing to accept it. The reason that you're willing to accept it is because it's the same reason I think with conspiracies, is that the truth is bleaker and it's not as fun. The truth is boring. That's why if you look at law, and especially like Twitter and anytime something happens, and then you get all these people who are not experts and have no fucking idea. Well, actually, I think we'll find that law says this, and then you've got lawyers who know it go, actually, no, it doesn't. This is it. And if you look at it here and here and here, but you're not going to look at these. You're not going to read the terms and conditions, because reading the terms and conditions is long, boring, and arduous. And that is the same as life. You're not going to learn everything that you need to for protecting yourself to see who's going to be taking away the freedoms from you, because it's boring. It is so fucking boring. Looking at the Coronavirus Act and seeing how that's come through, and seeing the fact that it didn't go through Parliament. That is boring to do. Trust me, I do it. It's boring as bollocks. I hate it. I would much prefer to read a wonderful fucking fantasy book, something like that. It'd be fucking a lot more fun. Go read a fucking comic. Let's see what Batman's up to. It's a lot more enjoyable than reading 100 pages on the Russia report. But it's not as important because the Russia report is important.
Yeah. So you're very dedicated that you actually decided to do that and put the effort in because it's what you care about. And I get the point.
And my life is incredibly boring as well. I've got nothing else going on.
And I also understand that it's not necessary. No, I can't think of a well-formed way of saying that. I think I'll leave it.
That's absolutely fine. Let's move on to Poland. We're going around the world for this particular thing. The Justice Minister announced that Poland planned to withdraw from the Istanbul Convention, which is a European treaty aimed at preventing violence against women. Because don't forget, the world is falling the fuck apart.
Why are they withdrawing from it?
The Justice Minister said that it was harmful because it required schools to teach children about gender.
What do you mean about gender?
You teach children about gender. This is just what he's saying. He also claimed that the reforms introduced by Poland over the last few years provide sufficient protections for women. Now, when someone says sufficient protections for women, it doesn't scream enough, does it?
How are you doing? I got sufficient food. What, do you want some?
Like,
I'm sufficient. Yeah. I'm so. That is enough for the women. That's enough. Wow.
Now, thousands of women protested in Poland. this is the ruling party and its coalition partners are closely linked with the Catholic Church and have promised to promote traditional family values. So, first off, what are traditional family values?
I like you, bash you on the head, make babies, you feed them, we kill some. Depends which point in time you pick.
Yeah, now, because they're part of the EU, should the EU do more to put pressure onto Poland, or should the European Union stay out of this?
Well, from an ideal point of view, people would say, hey, Poland, why are you not wanting to do this? Let's change your behaviour so you don't have to do this. But from a legal point of view, is it an EU law, or is it just is it part of being the EU? Which is a different.
Well, human rights are part of being in the EU. So you say, and the question comes is whether or not this is against human rights.
So you'd argue that women fall under the Human Rights Act. Treating women with respect and equality falls under the Human Rights Act, you would say, arguably, yeah.
I would
say that women are people. If you assume that women are people, then I'd have to agree with you that, yes, Poland should be made to treat women better than sufficiently.
Yes. We're just using sufficient. It's just a concern. Everything about that is a worry. It was like when Gove said that it doesn't matter what happens with Brexit, we will have sufficient food. They're going, well, that I'm going to be fucking queuing up behind a rice fan, aren't I, at the end of this, doing cosplay fucking third world.
But that's your choice what you wear.
Right. Financial Conduct Authority. We're going through all of the fun. The Financial Conduct Authority has quietly given banks the green light to deny mortgages to customers who have taken loan holidays during the pandemic. Now, more than 1.8 million people took the payment breaks that were told by the government that would not affect their credit rating.
Well, has it affected their credit rating? It hasn't affected their credit rating. It's just affected their ability to borrow money for a house. They're different.
Well, this is it. The financial
Simon says.
This is it. Have the FCA basically just found a loophole for banks?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like there'll be sufficient food. This food is out of date. Didn't say Gove says. Like, oh.
Well, this is so. It does bring to mind that you're going to potentially 1.8 million people are going to be affected by this after being told that they wouldn't be.
I understand this. I don't have a house, but I do pay VAT. Andy Onions Incorporated, the multi-million-pound company that keeps me in what I do. Don't ask what we do. Cobalt mining. We don't do that. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. And we had an offer of VAT holiday as well. And that was to help struggling businesses. And if you wanted to, you could defer stuff. Yeah. Yeah. As it happens, my accountant managed to cook things up a little bit. So as it happens, I was able to pay the tax that I owed, and it was all fine. But I can imagine if I was told that I could have a holiday from this because I was struggling, and then afterwards I came out of that and I was told actually that did affect me in a way, I can imagine I'd be very annoyed at the government. More than annoyed, should we say. I'd feel I'd been betrayed by the government again. Yeah.
It does seem like a betrayal, and it questions what else that the government have said that is going to come and bite us back on the arse.
But also, why? Why even do that? Why did they bother doing that? It's like, oh, we're not going to, like...
Well, exactly. It's not going to be affecting banks.
Because you get your money back from the government anyway. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. It's another example of just... If we're going to change the world, then the first thing that we really need to do is realise that those in power are not better.
Okay. Then I have an idea as well. We all save all our money together, get as everyone we possibly can. If we can get 30 million people, great. We pool our money, we each buy one house, like with 10% of the deposit, yeah? And then we all sign releases, and then we all stop paying the banks. We just stay in our houses. That would also work.
It would. It would certainly
organise, but it would work.
But the problem we've got there is having to trust 30 million people.
And that's the problem.
I don't think there's 30 million good people in the world, let alone in this pisshole of a country.
I know what we should do. We should hire someone to speak on behalf of the Prime Minister to kind of give a good message to people, to kind of get the right message along. We should do that.
I think I should get that job, personally.
I definitely think so as well.
I think I'd be fantastic doing that, standing in front of everyone, doing the government's press conference, just saying, and another cunting thing that they're doing to you is this, you're bleeding out of this orifice for this reason.
I remember I came to see your show with my girlfriend at the time, who said, "Oh, let's go and see that lovely Ash show. He's a lovely man." And then you started talking about Brexit and politics, orifices and stuff too. And it was a joyous moment in our relationship.
that was my explanation of austerity with the screwing bit. I still like the explanation. Let's talk about one of the big things that came this week, which was to save the economy, which was the Eat Out to Help Out campaign.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they came up with that particular thing, because it sounds like something that fucking Pornhub would do to try to get money. It doesn't sound like it should be a government policy to try to stimulate the high streets. It sounds like something to attempt to stimulate a broken relationship. And so this will operate every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in August. Is an attempt, as I say, by the government to try to get people back to the high street by offering up to 50% off meals in fast food restaurants. First off, what do you think of this idea?
I think it's great. We need to compete as a government with Groupon and with Voucher and stuff too. They're really big players in this too. So Sunak's like £10 off Monday to Wednesday deal is a fantastic way of moving into the low quality catering discount voucher service market, which is, I'm sure, what he wants to do to get back all that money here. No, I understand that the government is saying we need to stimulate the economy. We told you it was bad. Now it's safe. Here's that. Yeah. I would agree with the government's policy, apart from one thing. The other policy they announced yesterday saying you shouldn't go to the pubs, and also the previous policy saying don't go into pubs. So apart from that, I'm with it. If it was genuinely safe and we were just too scared, I get it. But also, we need to give money to pubs to stimulate the economy. Why? To keep the pubs going. Right? Why give me £10 in furlough money, me wobble on down to the pub, give them £10, get a £20 meal, this person's there, he's having to work too for a £5 each. Just give them the fucking money and give me a £5 and I'll have why do I need to go into the pub? I don't get it.
The beauty of this particular announcement is that it coincides wonderfully with another announcement from the government this week, which is to help tackle obesity.
Right.
So they've started a campaign to tackle obesity, and they're doing that by saying, go and get yourself a Big Mac, I assume. The Public Health England's latest evidence review found that the risk of hospitalisation, intensive care treatment, and death from COVID-19 seems to increase with the increased BMI above the healthy weight range. So the UK, of course, is the highest coronavirus deaths in Europe, and we are the third highest obesity rate. Now, we get into a very difficult discussion with regards to obesity here. It is
careful. I've been doing my best on this clothes horse. Okay.
Well,
still.
Yes. So the issue with this is that talking about obesity can offend a number of people, and I don't go out to offend. I see no point in looking to offend. With this, Public Health England's latest evidence, it says seems to increase, so there's no concrete evidence. Although, as we know, obesity does have health issues. I don't necessarily believe that Boris Johnson is the man to tell us to lose weight, considering that he looks like an overweight Cabbage Patch doll that came alive after a particularly evil Etonian came on it.
In a minute. Carry on.
So, with regards to trying to tackle obesity, and there you can certainly have people who are overweight and healthy, the same as you can have people who are thin and unhealthy. They're just saying you're fat and it's bad isn't really enough. With regards to food, as we've shown here, they're making it cheaper to get fast food. But none of this is going to say, well, half price on all fucking broccoli. And is that the trick that's being missed here? That one of the reasons that we have such a problem with obesity is the price of veg and the price of eating healthy is actually a lot more expensive for a family of 4 than it is to just get fucking frozen fish fingers.
Well, I do like frozen fish fingers, but don't ever do them on a toaster. It doesn't work. You've got to grill them. You just get bits of fish in your toast for days. Yeah, so it is tough to eat healthily and save money. I get it. I think this is going to sound a bit controversial, but I think the reason why there are so many takeaway shops and fast food restaurants to supplement and look after the first place is because of the nature of our diet. And if the government say you've got to eat out, support all of us, I don't think we do. I love a takeaway, look at me. But I don't think that we should have as many food outlets as we do that are takeaways like that. I don't think the government anything can support that without us having a really unhealthy living where we have adverts for this, adverts for this. Just let a few of them die and then make them slightly healthier ways of doing stuff. Change the incentives. They have a sugar tax. I think a lot of the things they do is they like to say something they're going to do that will fix everything. They just do one tiny thing towards that and then forget about the rest of it, like with everything that's done.
Yeah, is it education as well? At that point, like I put on more weight than I would like, certainly, but my diet is not great, and I drink a lot. I'm fully aware of the problems that I've put into myself, and I'm remarkably lazy. I really don't like moving too much. It's so boring, and I don't like being bored. But we do have an issue with regards to obesity, and maybe fat shaming isn't the answer, which seemingly is what the government is heading towards, whilst also offering vouchers for people to fucking get fatter.
I think we should get free yoga lessons. I've started doing yoga, and I found that I thought yoga, right, I'll do a bit of yoga right now and it'll be easy. No, it's not easy. Actually, it's quite strenuous, but without hurting your joints. I'm nearly 40 and I want to be able to walk when I'm 50. So I started doing yoga and I feel fitter and better and healthier. I've started doing some mindfulness stuff, and it's been much better.
Fucking mindfulness, you knobhead.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Blow it out your hole, you hippie prick.
How my brain operates, psychology and stuff too. And I've been so much happier during lockdown if I hadn't done all that stuff, just to be physically and mentally okay. Because without it, I'd have just gone mad.
Oh, certainly. Like I've purchased, if I get out of the way, a rowing machine.
Woohoo!
That I've been using as an attempt to get healthier. Because, like yourself, I've lived badly.
But more like you're a high energy performer, you need to get rid of adrenaline as well. It needs to be done.
Yes.
I dance my balcony like a crazy person to people too, but Fulham got to the playoff finals. I was jumping up and down like a lunatic. Yeah, just like,
I'm not doubting that for a fucking moment. Congrats. I say congrats, you weren't fucking there.
Well, I would have been there. And the equivalent game last time 2 years ago, I was on the BBC webpage and me celebrating at that win at that time at the equivalent game 2 years ago. So
very nice.
I would have been there, but no, it was all right. Yeah, so
right.
Tuesday.
We're heading towards the end of this, so we'll go through quickly some. This will be quick fire.
Quick fire.
Yes. New figures show more than 30 people chasing each job in part of London, in part of Britain. In part of Northern Ireland, it is 100 for every vacancy. Are we? Does this show that we're not having enough jobs created, or is this because of just the lockdown and it's going to take years?
Lockdown years, universal credit, 10 years, pay it back with government bonds. Next question.
Universal basic income could be the answer. Say,
not universal credit. That's the wrong thing. Universal basic income. Universal basic.
You don't want. Yeah, you don't want universal credit.
I'm so sorry. It's like I said the wrong girlfriend's name, isn't
it? Yeah. Don't worry. One of them's going to screw you over. We've got some good news here. Some actual good news. UK offshore wind farms set to be the first in the world to have to pay to produce power. So this is a dramatic drop in costs of offshore wind power, teamed with a slight rise in wholesale power prices, will likely mean that the newest wind farms coming online will operate with negative subsidies. So operators effectively paying the government to generate power. Now, a few years ago, wind farms struck a deal with the government to be paid generously for producing green power. Now, this could become the cheapest form of energy. That must be good news, right?
I don't know enough about it. I know when the government introduced those solar subsidies, I went, solar subsidies in the Midlands, and then it just didn't work out to be energy efficient at all. But if we can harness wind power and tidal power as well to help us with the energy gap, that will go some way to doing it. My mate's dad did a really good presentation about how we need to work on nuclear power now because we're going to run out of energy anyway, work on nuclear fusion. But yeah, it's never a bad thing to increase the ability for us to sustain ourselves based on natural resources. It's never a bad thing. And you can use coal to make plastic and stuff as well, and plastic bags and like plastic hats. Oil can be very nice on your face. So let's save that for things we like.
Exactly. Like oil wrestling.
Oil wrestling. Yes.
Oil wrestling. Then this will be the final story, and it's not a nice one. Seems the government may have been misleading MPs over mandatory voter IDs after it emerged that the data cited by a minister to prove the system does not discriminate against minorities doesn't exist.
So that was quite a complicated sentence, but doesn't exist was all I needed to know. So,
yes.
Was it deleted?
No, it just didn't exist. So this is the Cabinet Office Minister, Chloe Smith, said in June that the evidence shows that there is no impact on any particular demographic group from this policy. This is voter ID policy. However, this evidence that they're talking about comes from the Electoral Commission and doesn't actually say what she says.
Right.
This is claiming evidence from the Electoral Commission from 2018 and 2019 voter ID pilots. However, in both of the most recent reports, the Electoral Commission said that it had no way of measuring the effect of voter ID on minority ethnic community votes.
This lady's name is Chloe what? Chloe
Smith.
Chloe Smith. Well, that's actually really, really interesting because I've got some evidence here that Chloe Smith likes to clean gerbils on a Tuesday, right?
Well, I understand that evidence comes from the...
Rather that, the evidence doesn't say she doesn't. That's true. The evidence I have doesn't say she doesn't tickle gerbils on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Yeah.
Now, very, very to end this, what should happen to a government that lies and makes up data? Is there anything that we can do?
It depends how governments lie. If the government had lied to say that face masks should be used straight away, we have evidence that they protect you. That would have been a good lie for society, I believe. There are such things as good lies. If people lie, they shouldn't be in office. I don't understand how they should be an integral part of society, yet both in the UK and the US, and also in Brazil and other places too. And Russia, come on, Russia, come get me, Putin. All have lying cunts as their heads of state. So I don't know what you do. You vote them out and someone else will come in and lie. Maybe we need to stop people lying and stop incentivizing them to lie for power and having 5-year terms. Have like 30-year terms or 1-year terms where it's right now, it's your go, you do it. But as a council, so the average decides what's best for the average, rather than being I'm in power, it's best for me. The person in charge shouldn't be knowing that they're going to be rich when they get out of it.
I come to my idea of gunging politicians. Gunge them when they lie. It's not violent. It's shaming them. We need to bring back shame.
And the gunge has to last for 1 day. That way, if they lie every day, they're always covered in gunge.
Well, that's it. And they're not allowed to use parliamentary vehicles to get home. They have to use public transport. So that everyone can see that they're lying bastards.
That might actually be the most sensible thing I've ever heard.
Do you have anything to plug?
Frizz Frizzle does a really good show at 7 p.m. Every Friday at Frizz Frizzle. It's very funny. He does musical comedy. He's a good lad. And at Frizz Frizzle, one Z and then 2 Zs later on. I've been watching.
Fantastic.
Keep me all excited and happy.
Brilliant. Right. Well, I shall speak to you after we've stopped the recording. Thank you very much for coming on. To everyone watching, do whatever you need, like it, and all of this stuff. Don't force yourself to do anything you don't want to do, and fuck them all. Goodbye. Pete,
fuck them all. Bye bye.